be a game-changing decision for Somaliland and the region.
And America should proudly be the first state to recognize Somaliland as an independent nation.
We will be back with more information as this story develops right here on Africa Focus.
dowladaha Maraykanka iyo Somaliland ayaa ka wada hadlay iskaashi cusub oo dhex mara labada dowladood
acceptance of Somaliland, which seceded from Somalia in 1991. By all accounts,
waxyaabaha badan ee la saxay waa tamaanta inoo geysay in inagoonan ictiraaf helin oo investment helin oo aid caalamka ka helin oo dad badani aanay aqoonsanayn in maanta our political and civil liberty score-ka aynu haysano sanadkan bay Kenya inaga sareysay sanadkii hore Horn of Africa dan inaga ugu sareysay sanadkana Kenya qoriya inaga sareysay waxyaabaha Somaliland la saxay weeyaan.
Is this Somaliland's big moment? Will the Trump administration finally recognize Somaliland? Is this the historic breakthrough Somaliland has been waiting for since declaring independence?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Dhamaan ummadda Islaamka meel kastoo joogtaan Ramadan Mubarak. Tobankii dambe ee khayrka badnaa ayaa la gaaray Ramadan ha laga faa'iideysto. Aad baad u mahadsantihiin dhammaantiinba sidaad mar kasta ii dhiirigelinaysaan videoga like-ta subscribe-tana adigaan kugu leeyahay soo dhawow qalbi furan qol furan iyo qaar kale oo badan. Maanta maxay idin hayaa اعترافكي Somaliland halku maraya adduunka heshiiskii la galay ee Maraykanka iyo Somaliland halku maraya sidee loo qaada dhigaya Somaliland aqoonsigeedii waxyaabo badan baa yahay soo dhawaada aad iyo aad mar kastaba channelkayga ha iloobin inaad subscribe saarto soo dhawow ba ila soo daawo yaan hadal kugu daalinay
dowladaha Maraykanka iyo Somaliland ayaa ka wada hadlay iskaashi cusub oo dhex mara labada dowladood waxaana la sheegay inay ka wada hadleen saddex qodob oo waaweyn kuwaasi oo khuseeya danaha labada dhinac madaxda labada dowladood ayaa qodobada ay ka wada hadleen waxaa ka mid ah saldhig uu Maraykanku doonayo inuu ka samaysto magaalada Berbera ee Somaliland kaasi oo ah qodob muhiim u ah maamulka Washington qodobka labaad ee Somaliland iyo Maraykanku ay ka wada hadleen ayaa lagu sheegay sidii maamulka madaxweyne Donald Trump uu u fulin lahaa ballanqaadkii uu ololaha doorashadiisa ku soo galay ee ahayd inuu dawlad madax bannaan u aqoonsado Somaliland ila wareedyo madax bannaan ayaa tibaaxay in dawladda Somaliland ay madaxda Maraykanka miiska u saartay in saldhigga Berbera oo ciidanka Maraykanku soo degaan ay ku xidhan tahay in Washington fuliso aqoonsiga Somaliland qodobkaasi oo Hargeysa shuruud uga dhigtay damaca Trump xogtaasi waxaa sii xoojiyay war uu baahiyay wargeyska Financial Times kaasi oo warbaahinta Arabsiya News ay soo xigatay Financial Times oo soo xiganaya wakaaladda wararka ee Reuters ayaa sheegay in sarkaal Maraykan ah oo warbixiyay xiriirkii ugu horeeyay ee ay Washington la sameysay madaxtooyada Somaliland uu cadeeyay inay bilaabeen wada hadallo ku saabsan heshiis suurtagal ah dawlad madax bannaan loogu aqoonsanayo Somaliland taas oo sida sarkaalka laga soo xigtay bedel u noqonaysa saldhigga militari ee dawladda Maraykanka looga sameeyo meel u dhow dekada Berbera ee xeebta عسى Somaliland warbaahinta Al Jazeera iyo hay'ado kale oo warbaahineed oo caalami ah sida Financial Times ayaa sidoo kale baahiyay in qodobada ay wax ka weydiiyeen labada dawladood ay kamid yihiin qaxootiga reer Falastiin oo Maraykanku qorsheynayo in si ku meel gaar ah ugu soo raro saddex dal oo Somaliland ay ku jirto walow sida la baahiyay oo qodobka beeniyay wasiirka arrimaha dibadda Somaliland Cabdiraxmaan Daahir Aadan sidoo kale sarkaalka ay soo xigteen wakaaladda wararka ee Reuters iyo wargeyska Financial Times ayaa isaguna sheegay in xiriirkooda Somaliland kor uu u qaaday suuragalnimada ah in qaxootiga asal la geeyo Somaliland laakiin qodobkaasi aanu ku jirin qaybaha muhiimka ah ee wada hadallada dhex maray dawladaha Somaliland iyo Maraykanka maalmihii ugu dambeeyay gudaha jamhuuriyadda Somaliland waxaa ku sugnaa saraakiil ka socday laamaha kala duwan ee dawladda Maraykanka kuwaas oo xukuumadda cusub ee madaxweyne Cabdiraxmaan Cirro wada hadallo kala lahaa arrimo ay ugu muhiimsanayeen saldhigga ciidan ee Berbera iyo shaqaalaha Maraykanka ka jooga xerada Xalane ee magaalada Muqdisho sidii ay ugu soo wareejin lahaayeen magaalada Hargeysa maadaama ay jirto cabsi laga qabo in kooxda Al-Shabaab ay qabsadaan magaalada Muqdisho wada hadallada u bilaabmay dawladaha Somaliland iyo Maraykanka ayaa ku soo beegmaya xilli uu maamulka Trump ee Maraykanku uu Soomaaliya geliyay liiska cas ee dalalka laga mamnuucay in qofka baasaboorkooda sita aanu gali karin dalka Maraykanka xogaha ay baahiyeen warbaahinta caalamiga ah ayaa lagu sheegay in aqoonsi uu Maraykanku siiyay Jamhuuriyadda Somaliland u horseedi doono inay Somaliland ictiraafaan dawlado kale oo caalamka ah. Warbaahintu waxa ay sheegtay in aqoonsiga Maraykanka ee Somaliland ay sugayaan 8 dal oo Carab ah, 13 dawladood oo Islaamku ku badan yahay iyo 11 wadan oo ku jira ururka Midowga Yurub. Xogta ayaa intaasi ku dartay in dawladda Maraykanku hindistay magac cusub oo marka la aqoonsado loo bixin doono Somaliland kaasi oo ah Jamhuuriyadda Dimuqraadiga ah ee Somaliland. warbaahinta Afrika qaarkood ayaa qoray Somaliland aqoonsi ay ka hesho dalalka caalamka ay ka faa'iideysa sharciyad iyo inay galaangal ku yeelato ganacsiga caalamka iyo fursado maalgashi oo ay ka hesho dawladda.
markasta waxaan leeyahay Ilaahay naga hayo isha bilaadanka aad bal waliyahan sii daawano saa looga sheekeynayo Somaliland aqoonsigeedii waxyaabo badan ayaa idin haya weegaga soo socda insha Allah waxbaan idin ogahay jannaankayga ku xidhnow.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته دمانتي وان إدي سلام يا ولا ليال فيديو وحاو كسعدا ولا ليال دنيرة السوماليلاند دنيرة السوماليلاند وحان إدي ليهي هرچب بلينينا ولا ليال عدالة دروي ترتا مسوق ماسقو ترا أفريكا إيا عالم كانوا هايستا ما أنت هون في أفريكا إيك وأفريكا ماشا ugu adag weeyaan هون في أفريكا ما أنت وحا كسعدنا ويدي كأركيا ولا ليال وحا آد فهنتان Somaliland إن ميل فوق لغا كيني وحيابا بدن والا خلطي وحيابا بدن والا صحي waxyaabaha badan ee la saxay waa tamaanta inoo geysay in inagoonan ictiraaf helin oo investment helin oo aid caalamka ka helin oo dad badan aanay aqoonsanayn in maanta our political iyo civil liberty score-ka aynu haysano sanadkan bay Kenya inaga sareysay sanadkii hore Horn of Africa dan inaga ugu sareysay sanadkana Kenya qoriya inaga sareysay waxyaabaha Somaliland la saxay weeyaan taas aynu ogaano walaalayaal raja ay dalka ka qabno dadka maanta ina lead gareynaya ayna hogaaminaya waxyaabaha ay khaldeen aan wax ka barano waxyaabaha ay saxeena aan wax ka barano oo inagu tahniyadeyno walaalayaal oo inaga midhii Somaliland ah waa inaynu ogaano dalkan meesha laga keenay dalkan dagaal baa loo soo maray dalkan 39 kulan meetingyo ayaa Somaliland lagu qabtay kabacdi markii calanka Somaliland laga dhextaagay walaalayaalo 39 kulan baa la galay si dadka Somaliland ay u heshiiyaan oo dastuurka maanta la samaysto ogaada in ay Somaliland inaga inoo soo socoto Somaliland in ay inagu iska leenahay Somaliland waxyaabaha la khalday in ay inagu saxno oo ay wax ka barano xaraje beenina walaalayaal maahmaah Ingiriisi ayaa tirada the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams future-ku waxa uu la jiraa dadka aaminsan quruxda riyadooda riyadeenu waxa weeyaan Somaliland la ictiraafsado riyadeenu waxa weeyaan Somaliland la wada leeyahay riyadeenu waxa weeyaan Somaliland cadaalad helo riyadeenu waxa weeyaan Somaliland heede oo caalamka meel kasta laga aqoonsado taas walaalayaal maskaxda aan ku haysano taas aan ku rajo qabno walaalayaal dhammaantii waan idin salaamaya.
Is this Somaliland's big moment? Will the Trump administration finally recognize Somaliland? Is this the historic breakthrough Somaliland has been waiting for since declaring independence from Somalia in 1991? A buzz of anticipation fills the air as reports emerge that US President Donald Trump, freshly re-elected to a second term, is considering officially recognizing Somaliland as an independent nation. This could make Somaliland the world's newest Muslim-majority country and Africa's 55th recognized state. Senior advisor Bruce Lavelle confirmed the development, stating, "Reports are saying President Trump will officially recognize Somaliland." The announcement has sparked excitement across Somaliland, where leaders and citizens alike have long awaited such acknowledgement from a major global power. This potential recognition aligns with sentiments expressed during Somaliland's recent presidential inauguration. The US ambassador, Richard H. Riley, delivered a powerful address during the handover of power to President-elect Abdirahman Mohamed Abdullahi Iro.
Your Excellency, President Dr. Abdirahman Mohamed Abdullahi, President Iro, on behalf of the United States of America and President Joseph Biden and all of the American people, we want to extend to you our warmest congratulations on this event today.
Ambassador Riley congratulated the newly elected leader and emphasized the importance of Somaliland's democratic values and strategic significance.
We were very attentive, very focused on the events of the last month, and we observed, I think, one of the best examples of democracy in action on November 13th. The people of Somaliland have given an example not only to this region, but to Africa and the world of a true democracy. We are truly proud to be your friend, your partner. We have been for a long, long time, not only the United States, but many other countries besides. And we will be by your side for the future.
In a groundbreaking statement, Ambassador Riley said, "Share your aspirations and dreams with us, Somaliland, so we can work together."
We want to work together with all of the parties and certainly the new administration under Dr. Iro. Please work with us, talk with us, tell us what your hopes and dreams are so that we can be part of your future as well.
This marked a significant shift in US-Somaliland relations, with clear indications of a stronger partnership on the horizon. The Trump administration's potential recognition of Somaliland has gained traction among Republican policymakers, think tanks, and advisors who view Somaliland as a stable democratic ally in the volatile Horn of Africa.
Ethiopia is caught in a terrible civil war that we also pray will end soon. Eritrea is an international pariah and one of 5 countries that just voted against a UN resolution condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Southern Somalia is paralyzed by political battles, and Al-Shabaab is still strong. Amid all this volatility, Somaliland has enjoyed relative calm, providing evidence that there is, in fact, fertile ground for a truly sustainable partnership. So let's upgrade our policy. The United States of America should strengthen its position in a precarious and important part of the world. It should do the justice of honoring the consistent aspirations of millions of Somalilanders to rule themselves.
Somaliland's strategic location near the Gulf of Aden, along with its robust democratic practices, has positioned it as a valuable partner for the United States, particularly in matters of security and counter-terrorism. Ambassador Riley's recent meeting with Somaliland's National Electoral Commission further underscored US admiration for Somaliland's homegrown democracy. The ambassador praised the Commission's professionalism and commitment to upholding free and fair elections, which serve as a model for the region. In a gesture of goodwill and alignment, President Iro congratulated Donald Trump on his re-election as the 47th President of the United States. In a public statement, he said, "Congratulations to His Excellency President Donald Trump on your historic second-term re-election. We Somalilanders are thrilled with your bold policies towards Somaliland and look forward to strengthening the Somaliland-US partnership." As speculation builds, Somaliland appears closer than ever to achieving global recognition. With the Trump administration's potential endorsement, Somaliland's aspirations of becoming a recognized nation may soon become a reality. Beyond recognition, this moment represents a chance to cement Somaliland's place as a stable and democratic leader in the region. For now, the world watches as Somaliland's historic journey unfolds. Will Donald Trump deliver on what could be a game-changing decision for Somaliland and the region?
And America should proudly be the first state to recognize Somaliland as an independent nation.
We will be back with more information as this story develops right here on Africa Focus.
Around the world, there are many territories vying for independence and international recognition. Of these, few would appear to have as strong a claim to international acceptance as Somaliland, which seceded from Somalia in 1991. By all accounts, it meets all the main criteria for statehood. It also enjoys considerable international sympathy. And yet, after 3 decades, it remains completely unrecognised. In this video, I'm going to take a look at why it has faced such an uphill battle to gain formal international acceptance and consider whether this could change. Hello, my name is James Kerr-Lindsay. Welcome to Independent Thinking, a channel dedicated to international relations, statehood, independence, and the origins of countries. Somaliland has emerged as one of the most interesting cases of secession in modern international politics. Lying in the Horn of Africa on the coast of the Gulf of Aden, it has effectively existed as a fully independent entity for the past 30 years. And yet, while it maintains strong relations with a number of countries, all its efforts to persuade the international community to recognise it have failed. So why has it faced such a struggle to be accepted? The territory first emerged in the late 19th century when the area fell under British colonial rule, becoming the British Somaliland Protectorate in 1884. This set it apart from neighbouring Italian Somaliland to the east and the south. As Britain retreated from its empire, the decision was made to grant the territory independence, and on the 26th of June 1960, the state of Somaliland came into existence. It was immediately recognised by over 30 countries, including the United Kingdom. However, the new country was short-lived. Just days later, on the 1st of July 1960, the Italian-administered Trust Territory of Somaliland became independent, and the two countries officially merged to form the Somali Republic. Despite the initial jubilation at unification, it quickly became an unhappy relationship. In 1961, a new constitution was passed, despite having been opposed by Somaliland voters, that effectively downgraded Somaliland by making it an autonomous province of the Republic. In the years that followed, this resentment grew as Somaliland became increasingly marginalised by the Somali central government in Mogadishu. This sense of alienation increased after Somalia fell under the dictatorial rule of General Siad Barre following a coup in 1969. In the late 1980s, the central government viciously put down an uprising in Somaliland, resulting in the deaths of many tens of thousands and the heavy bombing of the province's capital, Hargeisa. In January 1991, Barre finally was overthrown by clan forces from across the country, including Somaliland. However, rather than usher in a new period of stability, it instead led to a civil war in the south of the country. As the rest of Somalia descended into conflict and anarchy following the collapse of the central government in Mogadishu, Somaliland seized its opportunity to break away. On the 18th of May 1991, it unilaterally declared independence, or, as the leaders in Somaliland would say, it reclaimed its independence. In the 3 decades since it seceded from Somalia, Somaliland has managed to consolidate its position, so much so that it is now widely accepted that it meets the criteria for statehood laid down by the Montevideo Convention. For a start, it has a defined territory. However, it's worth pointing out that the situation is complicated by an ongoing boundary dispute with neighbouring Puntland, an autonomous province of Somalia to its east. On top of this, a secessionist movement has emerged in eastern Somaliland that seeks to break away and unite with Somalia, albeit as a separate entity from Puntland. Notwithstanding this rather confusing situation, Somaliland nevertheless meets the territorial requirements for statehood. Secondly, it also clearly has a settled population. According to most recent estimates, the current population of Somaliland is in the region of 3.5 to 4 million people. Thirdly, it has a government. Indeed, this is one of its key selling points. In stark contrast to the political chaos that has existed in Somalia for much of the past 30 years, Somaliland has long been a bastion of calm and stability. Crucially, its government is also fully independent. There's no suspicion that it's merely a proxy for another power. On the fourth criteria, the ability to enter into relations with other states, the situation is especially interesting. Somaliland enjoys greater international acceptance than many other wholly unrecognised states. As well as enjoying good relations with its neighbours, it has established representative offices in the United States, as well as a number of European and African countries. Although it has to be stressed that these actually have no formal diplomatic status. Interestingly, it has particularly close ties to Britain. As well as providing aid to Somaliland, British officials often meet with Somaliland leaders both in London and in Hargeisa. Perhaps the most significant of these meetings came in January 2019, when Gavin Williamson, the then British Defence Secretary, paid an official visit to Somaliland and met with the President, the Foreign and Defence Ministers, as well as senior members of the Somaliland Armed Forces. However, balanced against this, London continues to insist that it does in fact recognise the territorial integrity of Somalia. On top of all this, Somaliland also maintains many of the other trappings of statehood, including its own flag, its own currency, and of course its own armed forces. It even enjoys direct flights to neighbouring countries such as Ethiopia, Kenya, and even Dubai, making it actually relatively accessible. So why hasn't it been recognised? In truth, and somewhat paradoxically, it's actually both easy and hard to explain. One thing that's worth highlighting from the start is that its previous independence actually tends to have little bearing on the discussion in any formal sense. Under international law, a territory that voluntarily gives up its independence to join another country doesn't in fact have a right to reclaim its statehood at will. I'll take a look at this important point, which has impact on all sorts of other disputes, including Scotland and even Texas, in a future video. In the meantime, to this end, even though it has become an important moral argument that is heavily pressed by Somaliland leaders, its previous independence doesn't in fact carry as much weight as many would want. That said, in other ways, the traditional rules concerning secession don't quite seem to apply to Somaliland in the same way that they do elsewhere. Somaliland hasn't really faced the opprobrium usually reserved for unilateral secession in international politics. Maybe this is because it was once an independent country and isn't actually a case of invasion and occupation by an external actor, as is the case in many other instances. Indeed, it's long been tacitly understood that, for a variety of reasons, it does seem to amount to a rather special case. This was made clear when, in 2005, the African Union sent a fact-finding mission to Somaliland. In its final report, the mission recommended recognition. Highlighting the steps that the country had taken towards becoming a modern state, it noted that Somaliland's situation was unique and self-justified in African political history. Therefore, the case should not be linked to the notion of opening a Pandora's box. This was highly significant as it seemed to offer Somaliland a path to eventual full international recognition, at least at the time. The view emerged that if the African Union was willing to accept Somaliland's independence, then others would follow suit. However, despite this steer from the African Union's fact-finding mission, the countries of Africa were unable to reach a consensus on the issue. As a result, Somaliland remained unrecognised in the years that followed. So, a decade and a half later, is there still a chance for it to be recognised? On balance, it would seem not, at least not anytime soon. On the one hand, it doesn't seem that much has changed in its favour. Clearly, the long-standing nervousness about redrawing borders in Africa remains an issue, despite the view in the report that it wouldn't open up a precedent. Meanwhile, in other ways, things have actually worked against Somaliland. Many Western countries, including the United Kingdom, will no doubt be worried about the effects of independence on the significant efforts that have been made since 2012 to stabilise and rebuild Somalia. There's quite clearly a fear in many quarters that if Somaliland is allowed to go its own way, other parts of the country will try to follow. This fracturing could make tackling long-standing problems of warlords, terrorist groups and piracies in Somalia even more difficult. Indeed, in recent years, there have been efforts to try to bring the sides into formal peace talks. This seems likely to continue into the future. And while there is the prospect of talks, even if they are unlikely to reach a mutually acceptable settlement, few countries will want to prejudice the outcome by taking a decision on recognition. As a counter-argument, leaders in Somaliland argue that other geopolitical factors are now working in their favour in terms of recognition. For example, there's increasing interest in their port facilities, including reports that Russia wants to establish a naval base there. While this might have an effect in the future, it's very much in the realm of speculation for now. Somaliland is a fascinating case. All things considered, it sits in a strange grey zone when it comes to secession. Leaving aside its previous existence as an independent state, which doesn't officially have a bearing on its claim to independence, but does nevertheless seem to shape perceptions about its case, it most certainly meets the 4 conditions for statehood. It is a clearly defined territory, it has a settled population, it has a government, and one that is demonstrably independent, and lastly, it has a proven capacity to enter into relations with other states. For all these reasons, one doesn't detect the same sort of hostility towards independence for Somaliland as exists in other cases of secession. Indeed, many seem to tacitly understand its case for statehood and probably sympathise with it given the state of the rest of Somalia. As things stand, it seems to be held back by a combination of African concern about secession and by wider Western concern about Somalia's stability. Ultimately, Somaliland's biggest problem has not been strong opposition to its existence as an independent state, as is the case in many other examples of secession. Instead, as is highlighted by its engagement with the outside world, its real problem has been international concern about the implications of formally recognising that independence. If you found that interesting, here are some other videos on other disputes that you might find interesting. And please do like, subscribe and share.
asxaabteedan aadka u jeclahay aad bad u mahadsan tihiin qalbi furan qol furan iyo qaar kale badan markasta way soo dhaweynayaa aad bad u mahadsan tihiin like tabriyahan way hooseysaa eeg subscribe laftarkeyga way hooseysaa youtube-ka ay nagu dhagan kala tuura bahalka kala tuura aad bad u mahadsan tihiin